with all due respect.
I'm assuming y'all do some.
Go ahead. What
Oh,
were you saying?
fancy.
You assuming we what?
I was gonna say I'm assuming y'all do some form of editing, or no, not at all.
Nope.
Do we?
This is
Okay,
this
sweet,
is raw.
perfect.
No,
Straight
dude.
raw.
No, dude. If
Fuck
you
it, let's
say
go.
if you say something out of pocket, I'm just gonna tell you it's going live, dude. I might cut it into a short.
Fair enough.
Right?
You're like,
Right?
yeah, you're getting canceled tomorrow, my
Yeah,
friend.
yeah, dude.
Yeah.
I would love to get canceled. I think there might be a way to get famous.
But okay, but
Oh,
that's the
for
thing.
sure, for
That's
sure.
100% the thing. If you watch any TikToks of people that have gotten canceled, their following is bigger than it was when they were canceled. So
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
it's kind
you
of
gotta
like,
think there's strategy behind it to a certain extent.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't trust
definitely.
anybody. I don't
We're-
trust anybody anymore.
We're about to blow it up then, for sure.
Yeah, I don't
Okay,
trust anything
cool.
anymore, right? And this is with all due respect. So this is Tate Blackmon, guys. We're gonna bring Tate on, and I'm just gonna tell you right off the rip, Tate's a personal trainer, and he is beyond that, right? You work in golf, you work in personal training. I first met you through some friends, and then I started following your. You have very very good, entertaining posts, and then we just started talking. We have a combination
You
of
can call me
fighting,
dumb if
right?
you want. That's fair.
We
That's
have we
fair.
have a combination of we both appreciate fighting. We both will probably one day have our own mixed martial arts, jujitsu, Muay Thai podcast where we
Wait,
we
that's
have
not what this is.
no.
I figured.
Great.
All right, guys.
Great.
I'm
We
out.
have
I'll
a-
see y'all later.
We have a running joke with me and Tate. The UFC fights will come on, and we'll be like, he'll show who you got tonight. And we went through about a month where we picked the losers for like a month in a row. Or like the guy,
Oh,
we're like,
it's-
man, we
it's
really
still
like this
going.
guy. He might knock somebody out, and that guy like gets his career ended that night.
Oh my God.
and
Devastating leg injury
Yeah.
simply because we
Yeah.
favored that guy.
yeah, Tate will be like, man, I really think this guy's gonna win, and like this guy will get like pneumonia and die in the ring, and we're like, oh man, like I feel like
It's
we're
usually
You guys
the-
are
Oh,
you guys
yeah.
are basically like finding their voodoo dolls. You're like just
Yeah.
jabbing
Oh, no,
their voodoo dolls.
for sure. For
Yeah.
sure. That
So-
kind of sums up my life, though. And that's how everything goes. It's like,
Yeah.
oh man, this dude's gonna be champ one day, and he's done the next day.
He's-
So.
he's
Okay,
not,
so
right?
I don't want you to
Yeah.
say anything else good about
Nope,
us.
nope.
Right?
Yeah, I know, right? Let me go ahead and stop what I was gonna say.
But I always like Tate's posts about working out. He's very gymnasticsy, so he'd post stuff with, and you think people don't notice your interesting placement of things, Tate? I notice when you post, like it'll be a squat rack where you're doing like one arm pull ups with like a medicine ball hanging and then holding a kettlebell, and you're doing a pull up, but then somewhere on the rack there's like a bird. And it's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
a bird.
I'm
and
glad.
like,
I'm glad one person notices.
Yeah,
Huh?
and I'm
the
like-
attention
and I'm
to
like-
detail.
and I'm like, I'm entertained by the fact that Tate took the time to put a bird on the power rack where he's doing
Some-
pull-ups,
Yeah.
right?
Some might call it special needs. Some might call it marketing for sure.
I wanted to bring you on just to have a conversation around personal training if we wanted to.
Yeah.
But first, because that's a big industry, right? The changing industry.
Yeah.
Tell us kind of how you got into it, what you do now, what you've done in the past, what you want to do in the future, and let's just start our conversation this way with an intro. Who is Tate Blackmon?
Yeah, so I'm just a pretty normal dude who really, really wanted to be a Ninja Turtle when I was a kid.
Yeah.
So somewhere between like, dude, like I got a hold of what was it? Bloodsport. There was a few other Jean-Claude Van Damme and Jackie Chan movies that I wasn't supposed to watch when I was really little. We're talking like VHS.
Yeah.
I'm 36, by the way. Yeah, so it was secretly watching those movies, practicing all the moves, whatever it could be. And then they always had these cool training montages that kind of sparked an interest in, oh shit, like I can be like this dude if I start doing push-ups and like squats and sit-ups and everything else. So yeah, to make a long story short, it kind of transpired into me training myself, and then eventually realizing that I can get paid to essentially help other people out. And obviously there's the gratification component of it where you legitimately can change lives for the better, and it's kind of hard to replace that feeling in any other way. So
Yeah.
But yeah.
Where did you start training at? Like when you first started, like I'm going to train people. Like, oh my crap, oh my God, I got to start making money and be a real person. I got to train
Yeah,
people and like
yeah.
do this thing.
Well, I basically worked a whole bunch of jobs as a young guy, 15, doing sketchy under the table roofing when I had no experience doing roofing in South Carolina. That was a fun summer.
Yeah.
So basically it took me doing a whole bunch of shit that I really didn't like doing at all. Landscaping, just construction, anything and everything. And then, I always played sports. I was always decent at sports. And it kind of dawned on me that, let me get into this training thing. So I went and got certified while I was in school, and then ended up working at Gold's Gym on accident. So it was the Golds on Forest Drive right when
Mhm.
Columbia Athletic Club had just closed down. I think
Yeah.
that was, what was that, 2009,
Yeah.
2008?
Yeah.
So yeah, so basically I was training a couple friends while I was going through my certification process and getting really into it. And yeah, went to that Golds when it had first opened up to train a buddy of mine. And heaven forbid you're training someone under the table and you get caught doing it. So I go to leave with my buddy, and there was this jack dude in a collared shirt with coach on it or whatever it was. And he pulled me aside as I was walking out, and he's like, "Hey man, are you a trainer?" And I was like, "Oh, absolutely not. Like, I was just working out with my buddy. Like, I don't want any problems. Like, everything's good." And he was like, "No, man. Like, you looked like you kind of knew what you were doing. Like, would you be interested in being a trainer here?" So he pulled me aside, and I ended up going the next day, and he wanted me to take him through a workout. And kind of as organically as it could possibly be, he was like, "Cool, man. Like, you're hired as a trainer. You start tomorrow. Like, we'll start feeding you clients." So it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
So yeah,
And
so it
and
was
and how long were you there? How long was it before you went like, all right, I can kind of do this myself?
so it was from, I want to say it was 2009. I could be a little more professional and have all these dates written down. I do not. It was
You could
2009.
be making this all up
That
for all we know.
yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, going back to the Ninja Turtle.
Yeah.
No, so it was 2009 or 2010. Once again, whenever that Gold's first opened up, um, until I want to say it was 3 years went by, and that's when found a little space. I knew a couple people were training people out of it, and this was like, I don't know if you've seen like the OG. Did you see the tractor pull up video that I posted that got way too many views and
Yeah.
blew my shit up?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was once again very unintentional, but it was kind of comical how that works. Yeah, the most uneducational post ever, and everyone's like, "I want to train with that guy because he does dumb, silly stuff." But yeah, so I was still, um, you know, developing relationships and networking at Golds. Wouldn't change a thing. I'm not going to speak bad about anything or the way anything was done. But had a little space where I was interested in potentially moving to, but that initial leap of faith is mildly terrifying in the sense that you have that security blanket where it was custom built at the time was the name of the company within Golds that was doing all the training. And I mean, they were feeding you as many clients as you could take, essentially, especially at that point in time. I mean, Forest Drive, that particular location, that gym was explosive. I mean, like as soon as it opened up, the amount of foot traffic, the amount of training, you could literally be booked. There were 30-minute sessions, which wasn't nearly long enough. They were 30-minute sessions, but you could pack out. I mean, you could do 24 sessions in a day.
Mhm.
So they had you running pretty hard. So between all the networking and developing that I did there, like I said, I wouldn't change anything for the world, but yeah, eventually working into that other space, like I said, about 3 years later, was kind of inevitable despite how scary it was. So yeah, it turned into me training clients at Golds, and people kind of coming up that I knew and being like, "Hey man," it sounded super creepy, but they were like, "Hey, we heard about your like secret training warehouse." And I was like, "Oh, no, no, like don't say that out loud. That sounds really, really sketchy." But yeah, no, it just kind of blossomed into that. And when I had gotten enough clients to not necessarily follow me, but to agree to go wherever. Not that I would ever take clients from another place. But yeah. Once I established that, it was kind of hitting the ground running. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I feel like that's a very common that leap of faith for a lot of people in the personal training business is very hard. I know Gray went through it. I went through it early on in my career, where when you're always under somebody else in some other place, you're kind of like, well, I kind of work when I want, get the clients when I want, and then all of a sudden, um, you take that leap of faith and you're like, oh crap, this is a business,
Mhm.
yeah,
right? Like
Yeah.
I gotta start being like a grown up here. Like
Yeah,
I got to
yeah.
start having like a business plan. I got to have some marketing plans. I got to like, how do I market myself? How do I grow myself? Like, how do I, make this grow? And then the hardest part in that job, in that business too, is, when people come to me and they say they want to get involved in training, whether it's athlete training, personal training, it's all the same business to me, is you're eventually trading free time for dollars,
Mhm.
Yeah,
right?
for
There's
sure.
only so much you can do and so many hours you can work. So you have a cap.
Mhm.
And the hardest thing for me was you are working when most people aren't working.
Yeah.
So you're 6, 7, 8, 9 in the morning, 5, 6, 7, 8 at night, maybe getting somewhere in at lunch, but your day is split and managing your calendar is very hard. Did you
Mhm.
find that to be similar for you? Like when you got your own space, you're kind of like, oh, I got rent.
Oh, for sure,
Yeah.
for sure. And once again, man, going back to your initial question, I would chalk everything up to luck, man. Like obviously you can call it fate, whatever you want to call it, but like I found something I was passionate about at a fairly young age. I dove headfirst into it, and I got lucky as shit, man. Like it's one of those
Yeah.
things where I know people who have decided, I've had people do internships under me. I've had people decide they want to become personal trainers later in life, or when they're in school, like I was, or whatever it was. And it just doesn't work out. Like if you can't reach the market that you're trying to reach, or you can't acquire enough clientele quick enough, you aren't going to last. You can't go for that long without paying, your bills and putting food on your table and whatnot, because it's not lucrative at first. Not
Mhm.
until you establish yourself and get a reputation and make a name for yourself and develop
Mhm.
that client base. It's really really hard to get by. So I think me having had that network coming from Golds and getting that reputation and just being a people person
Yeah.
really really does help, because there's that level of being personable that goes so far, especially now. And I think that'll kind of transcend time as personal training changes in the future and whatnot.
Yeah. How do you
Yeah.
feel since you started personal training has changed? Like if you go from when you started to now, like I have seen
uh
trends change,
oh
right?
no, for sure. Well,
Yeah.
you have the overnight, get quick fix, whatever it may be. We joke about that all the time. The waist trainers and the detox teas, and
Mhm.
you can change your life in a week flat or whatever it may be. But no, I mean it's changed immensely from a overall standpoint, but also from like an individual standpoint from my eyes, in the sense that it was always, am I smart enough? Do I know enough? I got to read this book. I got to read that book. I have
Mhm.
to continue to evolve, which is still prevalent. I mean, it's not like
Mhm.
we everything's done. We're good. We've learned all that we can learn. But it was one of those things where it's like I was always trying to impress, and I noticed that with a lot of the trends as well. It would have to be really catchy and flashy. And as I've grown into this and developed more and more, it's not necessarily about like, hey, how catchy can I be? More so just be real. Like if you're real with people and you're a good person, like it's gonna show. Like you can tell pretty
Mhm.
quickly who's full of shit and who's not full of shit. Yeah,
Absolutely.
give me a 15-minute conversation and I'll know kind of what you're about and what your means are.
Mhm.
Yeah. You're still in Columbia, right?
I am. Yep.
Yeah. So have you seen a difference? Because I know Columbia has gotten, I mean, in every city really has gotten an influx of group fitness, like studio fitness. Have you seen changes with clientele? Like, do they do that as well? Or have you had clientele leave to go to group fitness? Because I mean,
Yeah.
Columbia is definitely one of those places where there's so many places to go.
Oh, for sure, for sure. And you got to look at like obviously a sense of community, Orange Theory, all these places where it's, oh, well, I don't have to really do work on my own. I can just show up and follow a class. And there's definitely some of that. I fortunately have not suffered any setbacks from it. I mean, I have actually encouraged people to, hey, if you aren't going to go do the stuff that I prescribe on your own, then yes, we need to find other
Yeah.
endeavors. If you're training with me once a month, I'm sorry, like an hour, 90-minute session every 30 days isn't going to cut it. Like we're going to have to do a little bit more than that. So, depending on what they're willing to do, yeah, I have no qualms, depending on what it is, of course, pushing
Yeah.
them to do other things as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a small group fit. Well, I guess it's not really a small group anymore, but I started as a small group fitness instructor with personal training, and now I teach at a studio. And
Okay.
the difference is really good. Like
Yeah.
I think from like just talking about, the working long hours and having to be really personable and stuff. When I was personal training, it was like constantly exhausting to have to keep up all day with like an individual person each 30 minutes or every hour. Whereas group fitness for me, it's like you go in, you teach for an hour, you say, hey, you say what's up, and then you get to leave. You don't really take anything
Yeah.
home with you. So I've found a difference there just personally between personal training and group fitness.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I
you
think
were in Greenville, correct?
Hmm.
How would you say that scene differs from Columbia,
that's a good question.
or
Honestly,
is it about the same?
Yeah.
it's pretty similar. I think one great thing about the South Carolina cities is for the most part, everyone's really active. Like you can find really active communities in all three cities between like having an outdoor life and having group fitness. And I would say that a lot of, Columbia to me has a lot of like Pilates and cycle studios. And then there's a
Hmm.
few like Baseline and like EQ Fitness or like Temple in Columbia that are kind of almost like a CrossFit adjacent type
Yeah.
thing. Greenville has a lot of those as well. Like we have Metabolic. I teach at Spengo, which actually does spin, strength, and yoga in one class, which is really fun. Pilates is kind of on the rise in Greenville, and then we have a ton of yoga studios.
Do you
So,
think
Okay.
do you think there's a difference between the environment, seeing that you would consider South Carolina a college town versus Greenville
Columbia.
or Columbia? Yeah, Columbia would be more of a college town than
Y-
Greenville. Would
Yeah.
that does that differ the environment?
I don't know, honestly, because I think Columbia is like a very much so a melting pot of people, but Greenville has a really young amount of people as well. And, it could be because Charlotte has been overflowed with people and Atlanta has been overflowed with people. And so Greenville's almost kind of like a meet in the middle
Hmm.
between
Hmm.
Charlotte and Atlanta, but then also not far from Columbia for people that went to Carolina and are looking to settle down in a city. I don't know. I think that's a good question because Greenville's very active. I think it's a
I
lot
was
of
gonna
like,
mention that.
yeah, it's a lot of like, I would say older 20s, younger 30s.
More younger professionals.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
I
Young
think the I
family.
think being a military town and a college town
Mm-hmm.
changes a lot of the dynamics
Yeah, for
here
sure.
from a personal training, fitness, personal training perspective. Um,
Yeah.
I've only really been involved in the Columbia environment mostly, right? I
Hmm.
haven't been like you, I haven't been multiple places, but you know, Tate, we're mutual friends with Jason Brunson, who was somebody
Hmm.
we kind of met through, and he really keeps, and I have conversations with him all the time, and this is a whole different subject, is I feel like Columbia is always in the process of the next fitness thing.
Oh my God. Yeah. But that's
Right? Is
everywhere.
that everywhere? I feel
Yeah.
like there's
Yes.
you hear all the time,
What?
this guy's open up, this place is open up, this place is open up. And man, I almost feel like more places are dying than opening up. And it almost got to the point where, man, it gets so saturated
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
that,
Well,
but
that's kind of
is
why I was
is
asking.
that just the environment and fitness around the country? Is that specific to Columbia? Or is I think people think this job's easy. I think people say, I'm going to open a studio and I'm going to get rich, or I'm going to open up a fitness place. I'm going to be a personal trainer, only work when I want. Or man, those people
Yeah.
are making I'm just going to open
Yeah.
a 24-hour fitness gym. Or my favorite one is I'm going to start a place and start training athletes. And that's how I got started. And Tay, I tell people what you say. They're like, how did you get started? I go, man, I don't know.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
I think I got involved in an industry around athletes at the perfect place, at the perfect time,
Hmm.
had the
Hmm.
perfect experience, had the perfect resume, and it blew up. And now there's everybody around town doing what we originally started doing, and it's all over the place. I don't know how I would do it now
Yeah.
if I had to restart all over again. I said, I think I got really lucky in an industry. I think I bought Bitcoin in 2014, one of those things,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just
Oh,
bought
for
it,
sure.
I forgot about it, and now it's worth this much money. I said, I literally grew my business, Tate, out of complete ignorance because nobody told me how hard it was going to be.
I was
Hmm.
right there with
I
you, for
was
sure.
ignorant to the
Yeah.
whole process. And now when I get interns and they're like, I want to get into personal training and do what you do. I'm like, whoo, I'm like, go back to school, dog. Like
Yeah.
go get something, go become an athletics trainer, go, I don't know, go further along in your education, go to nursing school, something like that. I said, because I can't guarantee you
Yeah.
that this, I said, I guess maybe I'm making it look easier than it really is. But I fell backwards into an industry that just got hot at the right time
Mm-hmm.
and built a resume. And when I built that resume, it spoke for itself. And then, I mean, I, I didn't do any of the business stuff at Athletes Arena ever. My only job from the very beginning when we first opened up that place and started personal training people or training athletes was make the training really good. I always had
Yeah.
somebody else run the business, run the bills, do the taxes, how to do all the other stuff. All my job was to make the product really, really good.
Yeah.
That's
It's
it.
it's and it's significantly easier when you can just hone in on that one thing and you don't
When
have
you
to worry
have to
about the
do,
full spectrum.
yes, when you have to do everything, it makes it not fun. And there's
Right.
nothing worse than doing and than getting into this career. And there are a lot of people that get into this business who are horrible at what they do, but they're very good marketers
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
and they
Well,
make
and
a
I
lot of
think you
money.
see a lot of that now. And that's you
Yeah.
talked about you
Yeah.
see more people coming in and fizzling out just as fast. I think that goes to show. Like if you don't
Yeah.
have the passion behind it and you don't actually want to help other people, you're just looking to make a buck, there's no way you're gonna make it.
100%. You have to have a passion for what you do and be willing to grind. It really can't be a job. It's got to be a passion.
It's like your
And
whole
But with
life.
with all that being said though, not to sound discouraging for anyone
yeah,
who wants to get into the training
yeah.
industry, it's just it's not all that Instagram and the internet would chalk it up to be for sure.
No, it's very hard. It's very challenging because when I got a degree in exercise science, I never once had a class that taught me how to run a business.
Mhm.
Right.
I never once had a class that's like, hey, this is how you go get a business license. This is how you pay taxes. This is why you pay taxes. Um, this is how to work scheduling. This is how to have a life. This is how to have a family. This is how to try to do it. Because I mean, when you started this business, you didn't have a family, did you? Were you just a single dude?
Yep.
Right. So was I.
For sure.
Is it
Yeah.
a lot different when you have a kid and a family?
Oh hell yeah.
Not
Absolutely.
not even
Yeah.
close.
Yeah, I was
Right?
about to say I got a almost 8-year-old daughter and a 4-year-old son climbing all over me at all times when I'm trying to program at home, and it's
Yeah.
a constant. I wouldn't call it a battle because I'm enjoying every bit of it, but it does make things a little bit more interesting. So
Yeah. Yeah. I think people sometimes think the industry is so big and so big, huge that you can just have a passion for it. But here's the thing, not everybody should turn their passion. A good way to destroy your passion is to try to turn it into a career.
oh yeah, make it into your
Right?
job, your livelihood. Oh for sure.
When me and Gray started this podcast, one of the things we said is we're only going to do it until it's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
Yeah.
only going to do this until it's fun. There's a lot of things in my life. I'm only going to do jujitsu until it's fun.
Mhm.
And
yeah,
when it's not fun, or like I physically actually can't do it anymore, which I've been very close to that, like I'm either going to quit or do it really bad just to show up. Like I'm not, I'm at the point in my life where if it doesn't entertain me, I'm just not going to do it.
It's not
There was,
worth it.
and there was never a time that the training business for me wasn't entertaining.
Yeah.
yeah.
I was
Oh for
amazed I
sure.
created clientele. I'm going to be honest with you. Like I
Yeah.
was amazed when I like wrote programs for kids and kids did great. They're like, I'm like, whoa,
I did
that
that.
worked. I'm like,
Yeah.
But
that
that's I'm
worked.
glad
Now,
I'm glad you brought that up that though because I think that's a big thing and I definitely didn't understand this because a lot of people that become a personal trainer or get into group fitness or get into fitness in general, it comes from a passion of loving to work out. So
Yeah.
you turn your passion into your job and then you experience burnout all over the place. So I'm glad you brought that up because I never understood that to begin with. So dealing with burnout and dealing with,
Mm,
okay, how do I separate my passion from my work? And when I'm somebody now where I cannot write myself a program and go do that program. I'm not going to do it because
really,
I write so many yeah, okay, I won't do it.
really.
I'll
Yeah.
do it
yeah.
for a week. I'll do it for a week and I'll be like, "Oh, I'm over it. I need somebody else to write me workout." You know?
Well, Tate, how do you
Oh, it's
deal with burnout? Like, how do you deal with managing you controlling everybody? Because you got to think too, Tate, it's still important for you. And it's still important for you to create habits that your family sees, that your kids see, right? That's important for everybody.
Oh, for sure.
You have talk about like trainer burnout, not just training people burnout, but are there things that you do to make sure that you're still passionate about your own training? Because that's what got you going in the first place.
Yeah,
The Ninja Turtles.
Oh,
right.
It all goes back to the Ninja Turtles.
You still got to keep that inner Ninja Turtle, right?
Oh, for sure. That's
How
the only reason I
do
train today.
I think that's a great question for people that are getting in this industry that might hear this is how do you deal with your own burnout, whether it's your job or your own training? How do you stay motivated with your own health?
I think the fact that in regards to my own training, like I've always viewed this, I'm obviously kind of a weird dude, but like keeping things creative. Like I use this as a creative expression, if you will. I'm sure you've seen a lot of my weird ass workouts, and that's a part of it. Like I might be throwing in some really weird tempos to progress whatever it may be, but like keep it fun. If it's not fun, why are you doing it? Like y'all just said. So maintaining that level of creativity. If I'm doing a program, whether it be something a coach has written me or something that I've done, and you know I'm struggling with it, and I just can't seem to find that motivation to continue. I mean, you might not be doing the right thing. It might be time to take a different avenue. In regards to work-related burnout, it definitely happens. I'd actually argue that having a family helps with that for me.
Okay, how so?
Being able to come home and play with my kids and just kind of escape, get away from everything. Like we established, I'm a grown-ass child. Like, give me an excuse to go throw a ball with my kids in the yard. I'm there, no question about it. So I think, you know, scheduling, getting to where, not implying that I'm at like, you know, the perfect place. I'm very happy with where I'm at in terms of my day-to-day life, my schedule, my home life, my work life, everything. But like, you know, knowing that I'm going to have to schedule clients from, you know, 5 or 6 in the morning until the time I have to pick up my kids from school, and then being able to physically, as a dad of young kids, be able to go pick them up from school, bring them home and spend the afternoon with them. Like you can't really, that's not something you can easily replace. The fact that I had so many people a lot smarter than I am, older and wiser, whatever you want to call it, tell me like, hey, if I could go back and change anything regarding parenthood, it would be spending more time with my kids when they were young,
right?
and in those, you know, real developmental years. So I took that to heart before I had kids, you know, talking to, once again, other people and kind of learned from other people's, I don't know if you'd call it mistakes, but, you know, life lessons, and kind of implemented that on my day to day. And once again, I'm in a very happy spot right now, with where everything is and where everything is going. So I think that helps tremendously with you know, burnout or lack thereof. But there were some years there where it was, you know, trying to get to a certain point where I'm just sitting there beating my head against the wall. And you know, I got into I'm sure we're going to talk about COVID in a little while, but when I got into the whole individualized programming side of things, that might have been where I got the most burnt out, because I was thinking, I'm doing all this stuff from home behind a desk. I can take 50 clients that I'm going to write programs for. And just the way I am, I spent so long on every single individual tedious detail of, you know, this person's got this injury and that person's got that injury, and we have to do different things, and we got to keep, you know, exercise selection spicy and creative, and got to keep everybody entertained. And I would spend, I can't tell you how many hours on just one individual program out of the, say, 47 clients that I had at the time. So I think
individual programming is hard.
It is
very hard.
When you do it right, it's hard. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
sure.
I can put bull crap on a sheet of paper and
program,
absolutely. But when you really care about doing your job.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. So
yeah, I love what you said. I said, there's a quote somebody, and I'll paraphrase it. That said, you said it, and it was really impactful for me at one time. Said nobody on their deathbed ever said they wish they worked more and spent less time with their family.
Yeah.
Right.
No,
nobody ever said that. Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can see a family motivating you and inspiring you, not only with your own personal health, because you're like, man, I got to keep up with these little bastards. That's what I think. That's what I think sometimes. Dude. I got to stay healthy. I got to sleep. I got to eat right. I got to recover. I got to take care of my body. I got to do all this thing, because if this is how my kid is when he's 8, what's he going to be like when he's 13? Dude. I'm going to have to fight him in the front yard.
Monster.
Sure. Well, my son, for sure. But
Yeah.
no, my daughter's doing competitive gymnastics and has been for a long time. And she is, I jokingly tell her she's made of wood all the time. We have a basically my old office, hence why I'm down here right now,
Yeah.
is converted into a play slash gymnastics room where she gets after it, dude. It
Yes.
amazes the crap out of me what all she can do. But yeah, if she decides to take me out one day, there's no question she'll be able to do it for sure. She's gonna be a little badass. So
You
I
brought up
love
too,
that.
always kind of learning in this industry. It's very hard.
Mhm.
Uh, I have gone through this whole industry. When I was 24 years old, I probably thought I was a way better coach with athletes than I am now.
Of course.
oh,
I
for
thought
sure.
I
Of
was hot
course.
shit. I was
Yeah.
24, 25, 26. I came from a great facility. I was working with all the best athletes. We had people in the newspaper all the time, and I thought it was awesome. And it's kind of like the Dunning-Kruger kind of kicked in as I realized as I went, I'm like, God, oh, like I see programs I wrote for kids now. Like I still have a big program book, and I
Mhm.
still have programs I've written years ago. Um, and I look at some of the things and I'm like, that guy paid me $500 a month. I go, man, I feel like I got to call that
Yeah.
dude up and apologize,
Yeah.
right?
Give
So
him a
there's a
refund of some
get a
sort.
refund and be like, man, you must have had unbelievable talent because the training didn't help, right?
Yeah.
But we're always learning and you're always reading, you're always discussing so
I
much
feel
about
like a researcher sometimes. Like
yeah,
sometimes I'm like,
Oh,
I feel like a scientist, like I'm constantly reading studies and
yeah.
whatever, you know?
yeah. Thank
Who
God for technology.
who do you are there authors right and it doesn't have to be about fitness. I tell people all the time the best class I ever took to help me prepare for what I do was a public speaking class. And they're like, well, it's got nothing to do with exercise. I'm like, yeah, you're right. But you better learn how to present things in front of people, right?
Yeah.
Who do you read, watch, listen to right now? Like, are there people that you're
See,
like, I really like this person's stuff?
now or just over the
And
grand spectrum of
over the
things?
grand spectrum of things, who
So
can you say like
go
I really liked?
well, going back to the whole luck thing, like I got handed a book called How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy when I was super young in my training career. Do you know who wrote that?
Nope.
Paul Check. You know
Ball
who Paul
check.
Check
You
is?
know what? You know what's
Yeah,
crazy? You know what's crazy? In my head, when
that's what you went with.
I was gonna
Yeah,
go because if there's anybody that's done crazy stuff, I mean, Paul Check.
yeah,
So
yeah,
when I asked you that question in my head, I literally just went, I bet it's somebody like Paul Check.
yeah, yeah.
Strictly
So,
because like he
uh,
does a lot of the balance, he does a lot of the movement, he does.
oh yeah, yeah.
Paul Check had a cert, and Gray, if you don't know, Paul Check years ago had a certification that would Paul Check for a while was like the man in the industry.
Oh, for
And
sure,
I
for
would
sure.
say he probably started the functional movement craze that hit in the early 2000s, late
Mhm.
90s, right?
Yeah,
I'm not surprised. But I didn't
yeah.
know he wrote that book. Paul Check. Sure.
Yeah, yeah. So there was that, and then obviously, like as I got into it, the art of becoming a supple leopard was my index of, got to go
Yeah.
back to that at all times.
Yeah.
Yeah, anything Stu McGill did.
Sure.
I've dealt with a lot of low back fun stuff over the
Yeah.
years as it is.
Yeah.
So that, and then like Charles Poliquin,
Sure.
all the typical ones that you would go for.
Yeah.
But also like,
Paul Check to Poliquin seems to be a common one in the industry.
yeah,
But
yeah.
Paul Check into Poliquin seems to be a very a continuum that I think a lot of people have had.
Yeah. I'm trying to think what else. And then obviously, like, I don't want to sound cliche, like Atomic Habits, and
We
I
love
don't
that
want to call
book.
them.
Yeah.
Oh no, it's
We
I
love
hand
it.
that to the
Yeah.
majority of my clients as soon as they
Yeah. Yeah.
sign up
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
or
give
whatever it
it
may
to
be.
a lot of people. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I can't remember the author, but Biochemical Individuality. I don't know if you read that one.
Mhm.
That was, once again, I'm super young in my training career at this point, trying to read all this information and regurgitate it, and yeah, it's been beneficial. But no, even like, not to take anything away from authors, but just getting lucky with mentors. I mean, I lucked out in terms of people around me that were just infinitely smarter than I was, and bestowed a lot of very, very important knowledge that I still use to this day. So
Yeah.
yeah, no, it's once again the right place, right time,
Yeah.
everything falling in the right way. So
Yeah.
yep.
It's funny. I always tell people, uh, they're always like, well, how did you and Gray even meet? Y'all are 20 years apart. I go, I literally watched her transform her body in the gym. And I heard her body, I like her, she kept changing. She kept changing. She didn't talk to people. She had a little book. She had this little workout stuff. And I'd watch people because when in my industry, man, you start to really appreciate people when you're like, they're doing it right. Like
Mhm.
they're doing something. Like they're and she was talking to a guy that I knew, and I'm like, who's that? And they're like, here, let me introduce you to her. And I'm like, you're really doing like, what do you do? Because like her body started like shrink wrap, shrink wrap, shrink wrap. She was lifting, she was doing things. I saw, boom, and I'm like, wow, you like, and that's luck. That's 100% luck,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And that you meet somebody like that, and then you're just kind of like, I go, what do you want to do in this industry? He goes, I want to live in Australia and be
Yeah.
completely, I go completely be online
I was about
and
to say
grow some, and I want to
Greenville,
have, yeah,
Australia.
yeah.
You're
He
Pretty
basically
goes,
there.
I want
close,
to
pretty
have a,
Yeah,
close.
yeah.
Thanks, COVID.
this is always impacted me. She
Yeah,
goes,
yeah.
I
It's
want
never
to
too late.
do this, but I want to go and be and travel all over the world and still do it. I go, well, I do some online stuff. I said, would you want to do some of that? And then I also, we're here, right? So it's
Yeah.
complete
Yeah.
luck. It's
Which
complete,
I
Oh
still
yeah.
travel all over the world with it. I'm
yeah,
still
and
in
it's
Australia.
complete luck, right? It's
Yeah.
complete luck. So there is
Yeah.
that right person, right place, right time. And then the
And
education
like the
behind it.
industry too is like very well connected. Like I feel like people are always going to like introduce you to the next person or say, hey, this is a great person to work with. Like it's a very well connected industry. It's almost like being in a sorority or a fraternity.
Yeah.
Like we're
Yeah.
just very well connected all
I
together.
was going to touch on that. Just with Columbia, I understand it's not that big of a place, but like it is baffling how many amazing, not just people in general, but trainers and coaches and people in the health and wellness industry there
Mhm.
are, and how quick they are to refer anyone out to anyone if it's out of their wheelhouse, which is really
Mhm.
really cool.
Yeah.
That's a sign of being confident and comfortable in yourself.
Well, there are
Um,
great people in this industry, in the strength business and the personal training that have come out of here. We got a guy that squatted 3,000 pounds or total 3,000 pounds in
I'm
powerlifting.
about to say
Donnie,
what?
That's it. Right.
Donnie, yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
got,
Fake weights.
Sorenex came out of here. Spud
Hmm.
came out of here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forget
The
about Spud.
industry came out of here. There are so many things. I almost said at one point, I remember having a conversation with Bert Soren. I said, man, Columbus, Ohio at one point, because Rogue is there and like,
Hmm.
the Olympia's there and all the strongmen were there and all the things that were out of Columbus, Ohio. I said, Columbia, South Carolina went through a period where we could have been that big if everybody would have just got along.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Oh
If
for sure.
everybody would have just got along and
Hmm.
realized there's something bigger here, there's really smart people in strength and conditioning and training and building equipment and physical therapy and all of that that if everybody just understood everybody could still have a piece of the pie and like each other and not get mad at each other, it could have been there's really smart people here.
Would you not say that still, not that
Is it still
anyone's not getting
possible?
along?
Yeah,
Yeah, I think it is.
I just
Yeah.
wouldn't be a part of it anymore. Like that sounds bad.
Jesus,
Yeah.
touche.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
know what I'm saying? Like that just
yeah,
I wouldn't have my hand in that right now. But like
And
um
I'm sorry, I do think it's harder now too, though, because like we said, it's oversaturated. So now it's just
yeah.
like there's so many different things that you do, and whether you're like a Pilates girl or you're doing CrossFit or whatever, it's just people can't, settle into going to all of these different places. Whereas before, even when I was there, like when I was going through college and stuff, there wasn't anything. There was, Strom and there was Move and some CrossFit gyms, but other than that, there wasn't a ton of fitness places to go to. So
Oh
now it's
yeah.
really hard.
a little bit about we always talk about habits are caught, not taught, right? I
Mhm.
realize habits are caught, not taught. My kid one time uh dropped was doing something and he dropped something and it broke. He threw his hands up in the air and he goes, for fuck's sake.
No
And
idea where you got
he
that
used
from,
it
huh?
in context, right? He used it in context.
Yeah, yeah. At
And
least he did it right.
yeah, and like I stopped. His mom was in the room, and his mom looks right at me. I'm like, how am I in trouble? And it goes, habits are caught, not taught. He heard that out of my mouth.
For
He
sure.
heard her laugh or me do something, and now and so I'm like, that was an awakening point for me as a dad to be like, wow, this little bastard
Oh,
watches everything I do.
everything. Seriously.
Everything
Yeah.
I do.
And
He
not
does.
even what you say and what you do, but like I would argue like energy, the tone of
Yeah.
your voice,
Yeah.
everything plays such a role in
100%.
how they're perceiving things.
Did you grow up, and we've talked a little bit about your dad's name is Puggy, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And as soon as I told we're gonna have him on the podcast, as soon as I said, Gray, we're gonna have this Tate come on with his dad's name is Puggy. She's like, Puggy, I'm all in. Because
Yeah,
I'm all in a guy named Puggy. Did you
yeah.
grow up in a healthy environment? Like, was fitness something you did? Your dad was a golf coach and a famous golf
Yeah.
coach, but did you
So
grow up in that business? And did you grow up seeing
no.
health?
Oh, kind of. So as much as I want to joke around and make a mess of this, I will not. So I was born and raised in Lilburn, Georgia, small town right outside of downtown Atlanta. My dad was the Georgia Tech golf coach up until 95, I believe from like 88, 89 to 95. So naturally I spent a lot of time on Georgia Tech campus, kind of going around. Obviously, I was like, a kid. Um, but yeah, I mean, we were recruiting. We'd always have people over for dinner. I just didn't think anything of it. But I don't know if that would necessarily mean that I was around athletics. I remember being in his office that was under the football stadium basically, and I just thought it was the coolest thing in the world that he
Yeah.
had a big screen TV, which back in like the mid 90s, big screen TVs were like 9,000
Rich.
pounds.
Yeah.
No, like
Yeah.
big. He had a
Yeah.
putting green in his office. I was like, dude, you've made it. So I thought it was really cool, but
Yeah.
I didn't really know anything else. Being a 6-year-old kid. So I wouldn't necessarily say I was exposed to athletics. I mean, I played t-ball when I was younger, played basketball, and I played all the sports except
Health
golf,
important?
basically.
Was health important
Um,
in your home?
Man, I don't want to disappoint my dad when he
Oh
listens to
no.
this, but
Oh no,
but
no.
no, I mean like it really wasn't. I'm still teaching my parents about nutrition and
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
But I mean it was your typical 90s family
Yeah.
kids cuisines and whatever can be thrown in the oven. And not that my parents didn't cook, but yeah, it was one of those things where at no point did we ever think about like, oh, as a kid, I never thought, is this healthy? Like, am I eating something that's going to fuel my body for the better?
Yeah.
That just wasn't a thought process.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
would
So
say though, just from hearing that story, you probably grew up in a household of like you watched your dad excel. So that was probably built into you of like, I'm watching my dad make it, right, with his putting green and his 9,000 pound TV. So you
yeah,
obviously watch that and you're
um,
like, I would love to achieve that same
yeah,
idea for myself.
Yeah.
yeah. With all that being said, I'm pretty sure he was making like 30K a year posting his ads. So like, I don't think it was quite like
Yeah.
that. But no, it was definitely cool to witness him kind of doing what he did. And I don't want to say too much with him potentially coming on the podcast and being
Yeah.
able to
Yeah.
tell his whole story. But no,
No,
we
I look
moved
forward
here
to
and
that. Yeah.
yeah, no, we moved here in '95 when he took the men's head coach position at the University of South Carolina. And I remember later on, I was in high school at this point in time. He got inducted into the Georgia Tech Hall of Fame, and I
Wow.
remember going down to Atlanta with them, and we're sitting at a table, and there's hundreds of people in this giant room, and they're doing all these intros and everything, and he's got to go up and give a speech when they introduce him. And I looked at him and I was like, are you nervous? Like, do you have anything prepared? He was like, no, I'm just gonna wing it, man. It's gonna be all good. And just to watch him casually stroll up there and dude, he had people like crying and
Yeah.
laughing and like
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
absolutely killed it. And I remember seeing that and how transformative that was for me to be like, all right, cool. Like, he made his way, he paved his lane, like he did all this, and how cool that was to witness firsthand. So
I know you guys are still working together. How old's your dad? Did you say
he
70?
is 70. He'll actually be 74 on Monday. So
Okay.
happy early birthday.
Yeah. And one of the conversations you told me, I remember a couple of years ago, you're like, we're gonna do something, or it's like get on a podcast, maybe even recently, and you're like, we got these golf things we're doing on Friday. And I'm like, golf? Like, you golf? And I didn't think anything of it. I'm getting full golf performance. And then you told me who your dad was, and it made sense that you guys are doing this. Do you want to talk at all? Do you want to wait for your dad to talk about the golf thing? Or do you want to give a little bit about what you
Um,
guys are doing with golf?
We can go into it a little bit.
Okay.
So once again, I've been involved in strength conditioning, personal training, all things fitness for 15 years now. And it was just kind of comical how he was always doing the golf coaching thing. I mean, he's been doing it for 40 years. And how not at one point did we ever even grasp the concept of us teaming up to do something cool pertaining to the sport.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was about 4 years ago. Um, he was officially retired, if you would call it that. He's like myself. We can't sit still for very long at all. So he got into just giving lessons and this, that, and the other. And he kind of came to me with the idea of like, hey, why don't you look into doing some golf specific stuff? Like you can help me out a little bit here and there. And then it turned into an endless array of, certifications and me diving headfirst into it and really actually enjoying it and kind of
Mm.
finding a niche in that area, which I would have had no idea. Because once again, when I grew up, I played, and I almost feel bad for it, but I played every sport but golf, basically. And like even when as far as to get super into skateboarding and like just
Yeah.
like all over the place, but never ever really would play golf, which I respect them for not pushing it on us. But at the same
Yeah.
time, I'm like, yo, dude, do you see what some of these tour players are making? Like I could
Yeah.
have picked up a golf club at the age of 3 and been the next, Tiger Woods or whatever
Yeah.
it may
Yeah.
be. So yeah,
Yeah.
yep.
Yeah. That's cool. You know what though? I teach a class, and it's a class we go over wellness stuff, and we talk about sports. And 10 years ago, they came out with and I don't know if you remember this documentary called Trophy Kids.
Mm-mm.
Chris Bell, you know who Chris Bell is? Bigger, Faster, Stronger.
Mm. Okay,
Chris
yeah,
Bell
yeah.
made Bigger, Faster, Stronger. He made his brother's Mark Bell, who
Okay,
is a
yeah,
big power
yeah,
lifter,
absolutely.
right? Chris Bell is his brother. Um, and they did a bunch of documents. Trophy Kids, Prescription Thugs, Bigger, Faster, Stronger was a documentary they did. And they did a documentary around kind of like the crazy parent, the crazy sports parent, right?
Yeah.
And you got to commemorate. You got to commemorate, not commemorate, but you got to talk highly about your dad because obviously he loves golf, but it's his thing.
Oh, for sure. For
You
sure.
could have very easily made that your thing
Right.
as a kid.
Oh no.
He loved
Oh,
golf
for
so
sure.
much, so my son's gonna love golf just like I do because he's gonna be better than me because he's gonna do things that I never could, and I'm gonna make him that. I kind of respect your father
Oh,
for being like,
1000%.
I'm not gonna
Yeah.
make my kid because people think my kid's gonna be like that with jujitsu. They're like, I bet you make your kid. I go, no. My kid one day was like, I don't want to go to jujitsu anymore. I'm like, sweet, it's 2 days I don't have to travel across town. I was like,
Yeah.
that's awesome,
Yeah.
buddy.
For
High
sure.
five. Flag
For
football's
sure.
5 minutes away. Right?
Yeah. No,
Right?
no, I agree.
And I
Yeah. No.
respect that, right? Because I
Oh
mean,
no, no,
listen,
100%.
he could have been that dad.
Oh yeah,
Mhm.
but once again, I have a older brother and an older sister, and once again, I was once again so fortunate to have the best parents. Like
Oh yeah.
like just growing up, once again, looking back at everything, especially as a parent now, I'm like, dude, it was wonderful. Like all the complaints and shit I cried about when I was a kid. Like
Yeah.
there, no, we had it made in the shade. It was wonderful.
No, I tell
Yeah.
I tell people any place in my life where I've had major screw ups, there'll always have people that want to go back to, well, what your parents like? I go, no, that was my fault. I said
Oh, for
I
sure.
had
Oh yeah.
great parents. I had great
Yeah.
parents. Anything that I screwed up was my choice. I did that.
Mhm.
I go, I had really
Yeah.
good parents. Like I had really good, and like, you talk to friends like, oh, it must be something about how you were raised. I'm like, no,
Yeah. Oh, for
That's
sure.
I got,
me.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's me. That's my fault. I'm an idiot. My dad gave me the
Yeah.
leeway to be an idiot. He's like,
Yep.
you want to be an idiot? Be an idiot. You're right.
Yep.
Just change
Yeah.
your last name when you're an idiot, right?
Yes,
So yeah,
exactly
yeah,
right.
same way here, man. Anything I've done in my life, and people are like, "Well, what was it like growing up?" I was like, pretty easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Both my
Well,
parents
and
loved
to
me.
be able to acknowledge that, yeah, no,
Yeah,
we were all very fortunate, but at the same time, I also show appreciation to my dad on a regular basis for not taking me out back and shooting me in high school when I was an
yeah.
absolute
When I
terrible
should have.
child.
Yeah,
Yeah,
when I
no, for
should have.
sure.
Yeah,
It's like I'm gonna dabble in everything I shouldn't for a while,
yeah,
just to rebel and see what I can do.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah. Right. And then obviously, as you have kids now, like you say things and you're around your kids, and you're like, wow, like the only way we know how to be a parent is by how we were parented.
oh,
Mhm.
I
for
tell
sure.
people that all the time. The only way I know how to be a parent is how I was parented, right? Um, especially from a sports side, right? Like I'm so involved in sports in my everyday. It has been for my whole life to the point where like I made it a business. I dealt with athletes. I tell people all the time, and they think I'm crazy. I wish my kid would go learn piano
Hmm.
and learn and go to gym, like be a dancer, because that way I don't have to do something that's sports involvement again.
Yeah.
Like, guys, I don't get out of the car when he has flag football practice because I see all the
Yeah.
dads circling, and I sit in my car and play metal music and edit YouTube shorts and videos for
Yeah.
Gray, right? And he'll run out and I'll high five him and get in the car, and I'm like, let's go get some ice cream.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, let's go. Like,
Yeah.
I'm just so
Yeah.
like, there's only so much. And I had a parent explain to me, he's like, yeah, you really don't like come out. A parent was like, let's get out here and play with the kids and let's do it before practice. I'm like, no, I'm good. And I go, what do you do for a living? He goes, well, I own an insurance company. And I was like, that would be like your son coming to you and wanting to talk about Aflac.
He's
It
been waiting
is.
for
He
this day
goes,
his
he
entire
goes,
life.
he goes, got it. I go, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's just, you don't want to talk about it. Right.
Yeah.
Not encourage sports and we go have fun, but like,
Oh, for
man,
sure.
it's just because I've been involved in it so long, it's just not that important to me.
Yeah. Oh,
Mhm.
for sure. Well, and you
Right.
want your child to have a normal childhood. You know, if you push something so heavily on them that you're heavily involved in now as a career, like, are they going to enjoy it when they decide they want to pick it up on their own or whatever the case may be? So,
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Right. And so I think too, regardless of what you want to say, like we go back to taking risks, right? And being in this business, and you say you got lucky, and there is luck to it. I really do believe that. But you took a risk. The only way you were able to take a risk is that your parents built in a level of confidence in you that you never really thought about the failure side of it,
Mhm.
yeah.
right? You're pretty grounded as a human being to be like, well, that's a passion. I'll figure it out, go make some money and grind my way through it,
Yeah.
right? I think that's a reflection of parenthood for most
Yeah.
Oh,
people
for sure.
to be
Yeah.
able to take that risk and
I
do it.
remember when I was going to quit Move because I was like, I'm done personal training. I can't do it anymore. And this was right after COVID, so we can talk about COVID next.
Yeah, yeah.
I called my dad and I was like, I just don't feel like I'm growing anymore. Like I don't feel like I'm
We had
learning
this
anything.
conversation. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah. And my
How
dad was
old were
like,
you at this point in time?
I was 20, when was that? 2020, I guess it was. So
Yeah, you're
4
24,
years ago,
23. Yeah.
24. Yeah, 24. So my dad was like, the number one way to know that you're done somewhere is to understand that you've stopped growing. So my dad was like, if you've stopped growing, if you've stopped learning, that means it's time to move on. It's time to do something different.
Yeah, good for him.
But I know
Yeah.
that's like my favorite piece of advice ever, and I use it all the time now with
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
clients and friends. I'm like, if you are you learning anything here? If you're not, you need to go.
How
Yeah.
There's
do
no
you
hard
think
For sure.
feelings.
COVID changed, man? We talked about that. Like, we talk about pre-COVID and then post-COVID stuff
hmm
here quite often because we started a business right when COVID started.
During COVID.
Like, literally, we're like,
Yeah.
like when do you
In
not start a
2020.
business? You're like,
Yes.
you don't start a
Right now.
business during a national pandemic or worldwide
Yeah.
pandemic where
Mhm.
people aren't
Yeah.
sure where their next dollar is coming. And me and Gray are like, yeah, we're good.
Yeah.
It's online,
It's
so
online, right? Do you
Yeah.
think two things around COVID? Did it change? Like, has it changed the dynamics of the business of personal training and fitness? And has it changed people's perspective of the importance of health?
Yes to both of those.
Okay.
I'm gonna backtrack a little bit. 2020 was the weirdest, pardon my French, fucking year I've had in a long time.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
not just because the world was supposedly ending. So beginning of 2020, basically when they announced that they didn't know if everyone was going to live or die and the world was going to explode and everything
Yeah.
else,
Yeah.
we find out that we're pregnant with our second child. So
Oh
that's
my God,
a
what a
little bit
year.
Yeah.
terrifying. Yeah. So
Yeah.
we had a 3-year-old already, and then it was, oh shit, you're doing it again. Good luck, getting through and navigating this potentially apocalyptic world that you're about to live in. So
That you're
between that and
bringing a
then
child into.
yeah,
Yeah.
a newborn infant completely dependent on you. Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty terrifying. So as if that wasn't bad enough, literally a month later, my parents' house burns down. So it's literally like one catastrophic, not catastrophic, that having my son was anything catastrophic.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
But
once
it's
again,
big. It's
it was a
big.
it
Yeah.
was a life altering event more so. So yeah, getting that phone call, hey, the house that you grew up in is on fire. You need to come here quick. It was pretty intense, man.
Yeah.
So 2020 in a nutshell was very strange as it was. Once again, I hate to use the term fortunate and lucky and whatnot so often in this podcast, but I was fortunate enough to have a mentor by the name of Carl Hardwick. He's with OPEX, and when I was venturing off onto my own, I ended up meeting him and actually going through OPEX CCP and working
Yeah.
for OPEX Columbia when it was in town.
Yeah.
And that is basically all individualized programming.
Yeah.
That evolved what I was doing so much for the better, of course. And because a lot of that stuff is remote coaching, remote programming based, I was kind of already set up to begin that process, which I kind of already had. So when 2020 happened and everything shut down and it was, the end of the world, I think people kind of realized that like, hey, like it seems like only the I don't want to say morbidly obese people, but the people that weren't necessarily metabolically flexible and healthy were the ones getting the worst of this.
Yeah.
Maybe I need to do something about my health. So the fact that I was already doing online type programming and coaching kind of helped make for an easy transition. Was it comfortable? Not really, especially given the circumstances that I just kind of laid out as to how 2020 began. But no, it could have been a lot worse. So as an individual doing what I'm doing, it was not absolutely detrimental to my family and my business and everything. But I will say that I noticed a pretty significant change in people just being aware of their health, where they currently stand. Oh crap, I haven't done anything, in a couple of decades since I played high school sports or whatever their case may be. And all of a sudden now they're stressing that importance. So
I would have to echo that. People started to see the repercussions to being unhealthy for years.
Yeah.
And if there's anything COVID made us realize is that you are 100% responsible for your health.
Oh yeah.
That is it. Nobody's coming to save you. In fact, they might be trying to kill you. Right?
And like quick
That's a whole other
fixes.
podcast.
Yeah. We went there today. Yeah.
Quick fixes, which we know what I'm talking about. The quick fixes don't always work. That's not always going to protect you.
Sure.
Yeah, and yeah, I think COVID definitely changed obviously the landscape of fitness. I think it changed the landscape of health. I think we're seeing we in the previous podcast have talked about the resurgence of people trying to be healthy, people wanting to be healthy, people understanding that like maybe the environments that we have in this country aren't set for health, right?
Yeah.
And how do we change those environments? What does it look like? But none of that's changing without personal responsibility. And I think if anything we've learned from COVID and from a health perspective is it's up to you. Right?
For
it's
sure.
up to you. Because there's nothing harder in this industry when you have a lot of compassion, empathy for people, to see people who come to you for help, but they just won't take the steps to implement what they need to do. And you're like, I'm trying to, sometimes you want it more for them than they want it for themselves. That's always the hardest thing was for me in this industry, was when you see people really struggling and you have the answer, but they just can't get over that hump to make their life better. Right.
When in actuality, it's rocket science. I mean, it's one of those things
really
where
not.
You can lay it out as basic as possible. Yeah, it's the lack of willingness to change and get out of that comfort zone of where they've been for so long.
Which is why Atomic Habits, I tell people, is the #1 book I ever read on health that has nothing to do with health. That's the hardest thing.
But it has nothing and everything to do with health.
That's a great way to put it. Yeah,
it's so true, and that's why I've become such a big proponent of group fitness just because it's an automatic community wherever you go. And I do think COVID really scared people out of community. Obviously, like we weren't able to hang out with each other and see each other. And so when we were able to, again, people really missed that sense of community. So I feel like, fitness in general has a huge community. Even if you go to a big box gym where you don't go to a class, you still see all the same people that you go work out with at the same time.
Yeah.
But that's what I love about fitness so much, is that it's always a community and it's always people like with a greater end goal,
Yeah, there Thanksgiving morning we had jiu-jitsu open mat on Thanksgiving. Because there's psychopaths that are involved in that, right?
Oh yeah, we had it too.
Yeah,
We
you guys
had it too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So I remember Thanksgiving, I got up, open mat was at 10. I got up on the road at 9:30. I'm driving down Garner's Ferry and there's nobody on the road. There's still a piece of me that went, this is what COVID was like.
Yeah.
I was like,
Yep.
nobody's on the road.
But that's traffic.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to sit in, like the
I'm
traffic
like,
in Greenville now is so crazy. Living in Montana was the best thing ever. There was traffic nowhere. And I moved back here and it's like there's traffic
I still
everywhere.
think they should have kept. Remember the grocery stores had the footprint that you had to follow to go through.
Yeah,
the
you
store?
always say that.
I still think that's a great idea. I still think we should have never
personal
lost
space,
that from
man.
COVID. Yeah. When you walk in the door, everybody needs to get in line like we're in Auschwitz and just step through the grocery store and get through your little area. And when they took those up, I'm like, hey guys, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. The footsteps were a great idea.
Did you use any other comparison? Any other comparison?
I don't know.
Well, I also miss seeing people in the post-apocalyptic, like welder's mask with their panties over their whatever, like with a shopping cart full of Swiss cake rolls and Doritos and like whatever.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was a very entertaining time.
Best.
There are 6 months in there where I literally felt like during COVID, I was living outside watching. Like I was from the outside watching it, like. People had welder's masks on.
Oh,
and I'm like, crazy. This is the crazy. I go, I'm outside watching this, and my father died in 2019, and COVID happened in 2020, and I still tell my mom, I'm like, thank God, my dad didn't have. He would have not shut up, and he would have been so mad about it. He would have chewed your. I go, I sat in amazement during COVID and going like, this is unbelievable. Like I want to bring a video camera. Like this is
real?
Great. This is crazy.
It was crazy,
right?
I feel like that opened hopefully everybody's eyes as to like maybe it's not what it seems. Maybe we should be questioning more. Like what exactly took place there, and how quick were people to yes sir, yes man, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
But going back to it, like. I don't know, call it crazy. I kind of enjoyed throwing a mask on and going full ninja mode and going to a gym where I used to work and not having to talk to anybody just because I could actually go get my workout in.
Yeah.
So I may have drawn that out. I think the past couple times I saw you at Move back in the day, Josh, I might have been rocking a hoodie and a mask. Just trying to stay in disguise. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So, hey, I really appreciate you coming on. I know it's hard to get an hour. I feel like. When did I last ask you about coming on the podcast? I feel like it was like 4 months ago, 6 months, like when we just started.
Yeah,
I was like, hey, Tate, come on the podcast. And we're like, yeah, great, let's get a time. And then like we didn't talk for like a month. That's dudes,
That's how
right?
it happens.
That's how dudes are, right?
Yeah. No, life is a little crazy.
It's just life.
Yeah.
It's just life.
Yeah.
We've been busy.
Yeah, we'll bring Puggy on, and I want to hear. Can you give us a little taste of what we're going to talk about with Puggy? Because you brought up some golf stories. You brought up Tiger Woods. You brought up
dude. Going back to his Hall of Fame induction speech. I would just let him run. Just get him on here, let him wing it, and I guarantee we'll all be wildly entertained.
Has he ever met John Daly?
Oh, I guarantee you he had. Dude, so David Duvall basically lived at our house for a period in the 90s, and he was, I don't know if you know who that is, but he was one of the good ones in the 90s for sure, in terms of he was up there with Tiger Woods. So no, it would definitely be a cool conversation. Hey, before we get off, if it is that time, I want to thank y'all immensely for what you're doing. I realize it sounds super cheesy, whatever.
We love it. Tell us more.
No, it's seriously awesome what y'all are doing. The fact that y'all have made this something that is free and easily palatable for the general population and for trainers like myself, it's super cool. But also for the intro to Mike Wines.
Oh
Josh,
yeah,
I don't,
you
no,
ain't
no, no,
kidding. Me and you
no,
both.
I'm serious. So, no, so I don't know if you recall, you introducing me to him a million years ago, through the platform. And, dude, he has been a beacon of knowledge for me. And like, he doesn't know me much different than the next person, but like, the amount of time that he takes to respond to my intricate, annoying questions, like I think he understands how much of a nerd I am. Like when my wife got pregnant the first time with Brenly, my daughter, in 2016, I was on a hunt to find the best prenatal and all these, whatever it may be. And he kind of directed me. And on top of that, I don't know if you recall my mom's cancer
Mhm.
diagnosis, 2023. I was able to speak to both y'all, and dude, the amount of knowledge that he shared with me
Yeah,
that was absolutely monumental in helping her, which she's 100% cancer free now. It's
awesome.
amazing.
God bless
Like,
you,
yeah,
dude.
That's
dude,
Yeah,
incredible.
it's freaking awesome. But like, not only was I in a place, selfishly speaking, of, oh shit, what do I do? Like I'm
yeah,
supposed to be helping. Like I need advice, I need help, and on such a deeper molecular level than I could
yeah.
comprehend. And he went above and beyond to help all of us out. So no,
He's
it was
Yeah.
awesome.
super cool, man. Y'all are all
So
awesome. Keep doing what you're
Mike
doing.
Wines was a student at the University of South Carolina,
Yeah.
Hmm.
needed a 300-hour internship to graduate from college. He went out to Athletes Performance, Mark Verstegen's places that were really big then, right? And he spent there for a little bit and he needed one more internship. And he came to my internship as like a 21-year-old kid. And within 3 weeks of him at 21, we were having conversations. And I'm like, this kid's different, bro. Like, this kid's a
Yeah.
genius. Like, his
Yeah.
ability to read and obtain information. When he's replying to you, Tate, he's not researching it.
Oh no,
No,
for
it's
sure.
like
It's
in his
Yeah.
brain.
he goes, oh, Tate, and he brings it down, and I'm like, oh my god. So just so you know, he graduates from PA school today.
I know
Okay.
we need to
That's
text
today.
him. We need to
Yes, he
text
goes to
Yeah.
him.
he's graduating from PA school today, and the plan is to do more with him, depending on what
Okay.
more environment he does to offer
Yeah.
services to people, depending on where he's working, what kind of place he's at, what he's doing. He's got to get
Yeah.
a job. Like, what is he allowed to legally to do under whose license and what he can do? But
Yeah.
our goal is to eventually have him as a resource for people on a
Yeah.
consulting side. He's been amazing for me. He's been amazing for my mother. He's helped her. He's super knowledgeable, and I tell you, PA school, I think that he's gone through, and he would probably tell you this, has opened his eyes to the world of medicine and where we actually need to help people.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Where he's like, guys, and I go, Mike, the world needs you, bro. I'm like,
Yeah.
and
We
Oh,
need
and the
to.
world need, and
yeah.
we tell him the world, and he'll say things like, well, why don't people know that sleep and their stuff affects their central nervous system and that can lead to some thyroid damage and this can lead to that? What I just thought that's common sense. I go, no, bro, it's not. It's
Yeah.
not,
Yeah.
bro. You're doing advanced math. These people are just into addition,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
They like so yes, Mike has been a one. I've always stayed close to Mike. He's always been a part of what we do. I hope I'll take a clip of this and I'll share it with him because he really is so helpful to people.
Hmm.
I did a consult with a follow up with a client who Mike did a consult with like 6 months ago, and she goes, "Hey, I did a consult with Mike for an hour, and he charges a good amount of money for it because his time is valuable and he's really smart." And she goes, I've implemented that. She goes, I have had incredible changes in my sleep and how I feel.
Hmm.
She goes, when you see him, can you just thank him?
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
remember one time, and I'll just tell one story. We were doing a call with a girl who wanted some help. She was having some energy issues, some digestion issues, autoimmune issues. She went through her whole spiel. And Mike goes, have you ever, like random, like it was random to me, but not random to him. He goes, have you ever worked in like an office or something that had maybe like asbestos? She goes, oh my gosh, yeah. She goes, I worked in an office and we had asbestos issues cleared out, but that was like 4 or 5 years ago. She was like, he's like, yeah, you're dealing with the repercussions of that. And I'm like,
It's insane.
where did that come from, Mike? Like, where did that rent? He's like, no, it's not random. That's just she just gave off all the signs and symptoms of someone that's had some sort of environmental exposure that's causing some autoimmune issues. And here are the 6 or 7 things she needs to do to help it, but she's got to do it for about 6 months before she really feels better. And she needs to check this list off. And I'm like,
Yeah.
Am I getting like, but no, he
Yeah.
is. I agree with that. I agree with that, Tate. He is so helpful to people. He's so caring to people. Are you doing the sleep thing?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
I'm excited
like,
for that.
yeah. So like once again, given what I do and all of my training and whatnot, it's all centered around sleep hygiene and
Yeah.
you know, the holistic approach and obviously
Yeah.
the training side of things and everything. So obviously he covers all that in such great detail that we can all learn from it. But also then I'll turn around. We both play the drums. So we'll have a
Yeah.
conversation about drumming and hip hop or whatever it may be. And like, yeah, nah, he's definitely a good one for sure, man. I appreciate y'all making that intro.
Well, that's awesome. I'll play it for him. We'll put this
Tell us
together.
where to find you.
Yeah, where can we
first.
find you?
Yeah, so Instagram Torture by Tate, as lame as that sounds. But yeah, that's
We'll
about
tag
it.
it.
We'll do the one with my pops at some point in time, and that's Into It Golf. So we're running a 8-week junior golfers camp right now, which is pretty fun. We kicked that off last weekend. So we'll be doing a lot more stuff like that, and then obviously we do all of our other stuff there. So yeah, that's about
I
it.
appreciate you coming on, bro.
Thanks, Tate.
Yeah.
With all due respect.